and how have you guys scrimmaged a lot because of how different this month of November has been?
Well, first of all, let me say bonjour, William. There he is. That was
There
better.
you are. All right.
All right.
Bonjour, Willie. I took a little French, man. Huh? Jim McPhail Miguel, that's my name. My name is Michael, Jim McPhail, see? That's going way back, but hey, glad to see you, and obviously looking forward to going down memory lane because I'm sure you got a lot of great memories here. And I love the St. John's jersey on right there. Look at there. That's a good looking shirt.
Yeah. And Coach Landon gave this one to me.
How about that? Well, good.
They were in Paris, and I met him up in Paris, and Coach Landon was like, let me coach the team, actually. But go ahead and finish your story. We got time.
Well, and to all the red, white members that are on here and athletic development department, you guys do an outstanding job, and I appreciate it. Yeah, we had a scrimmage yesterday. These guys, we've been going at it since late July, and at some point in time, if you get stale going against each other. So I brought some officials in. It's one thing to have practice, but then when you start bringing the officials in, you're getting closer to a game mode, which is a week away. And so I was anxious to see how guys would respond to that, because when the popcorn get popping, and of course we won't have fans this year, you really get a chance to see the guys that can bring that game to the, translate their game. So, but I thought it was, the guys got up and down pretty good. There were some things that, as a coach, I'm going to be a critic about, but for the most part, you saw the new guys have a chance to come out and put on display. And I wanted our fans to get a little snippet of, what's to come. And just remember, we're going to put all this together. But the things we try to address, number one, was to bring some size, get some more balance. Last year, I thought we were guard heavy. That was the strength of our team. And this year, now with the addition of a guy like Orlando Toro, who's a banger, a guy that can facilitate, do a lot of different things. Isaiah Moore, 6'10". You get a chance to see him get up and down the floor. But the action was up and down the floor. And to my surprise, the white team comprised of the newcomers, the Posh Alexanders, the Dylan, Isaiah, Vince Cole. Those guys had at halftime, they had the red team now comprised of Marcellus Earlington, Rasheem Dunn. We didn't have Julian Champagne. Right now, he's out with the ankle injury. So the red team missed him. But David Carraher and Marcellus Earlington. But the team had them down like 20 points at halftime. That hadn't been going on. It normally had been pretty competitive in practice. But we got a chance to see them in action. And so some things we'll work on as we continue to try to get better. But I'm excited about this team, as Mike alluded to. Got a lot of different pieces. And so as coaches, my staff and I, we're trying to identify how we put all that together. It's all about like a puzzle. You got to put that puzzle together. So, but we're excited about it. I think this team will be, more deeper. I think we'll be more athletic. I think we got more skilled guys. And of course, jumping right into league play. That's the thing about it. December the 11th, we jumped right into league play. So as I told our guys, we got to be mentally and physically ready as we move forward. But it's been a trying time, and you can imagine with all the safety protocols we have to do with COVID, and obviously to all the frontline workers, and I'm sure we got some on here who go out and try to contain this plague, the virus, but what they do each and every day, we appreciate that. But our guys have been really good. I tell you what, and of course, I think Mike's leadership is top notch, and I think our athletic department will continue to soar even in these times. But again, talking about our team, I just think the depth hopefully will be a factor, and we just got to continue to work and get to next week. Let's keep test the right way. It's amazing to say testing, you think positive. We want negative tests. That's what we want, negative tests as we move forward.
Coach Anderson, one more for you before we introduce Billy Goodwin. Coach, so when I look at your team and a lineup from the outside, I feel like you may have 9 guys this year before all is said and done. They may start 7 or more games. They're going to be all pushing each other, and at least have those opportunities to start. To what degree has this depth that you wanted, that you put together in recruiting, to what degree has it played out to create the competition that it usually takes teams and players to another level, because they're battling for their spot basically every day, and many guys are not identical to each other at these spots, so they bring something different each time too. They're not kind of carbon copies of a 2 guard, of a 3, of a point. They bring so much. How have you seen that play out now that you've had them for about 6 weeks?
Well, there's no question about it. What you just talked about, guys having to figure out their roles. What do they bring to the table? I think the Posh Alexander kid is going to be an exciting player. I think our fans will really love it. I think he's like a little coach out on the floor, orchestrating everything, getting guys in the right position. I mean, he makes some guys look really, really good. But when you talk about the depth, the competitive, you win games in practice. That's I always say that. And I think the competition day in and day out has been unbelievable. So I'm gonna have a tough problem, but it's not a tough problem because I'm gonna have about 7 to 8 starters. The key is you want playing time. So every day they're in the gym, they're trying to audition. It's kind of like they're auditioning in front of me. Say, Coach, I want this playing time. But I've been pleased with some of the progress. Let's say a guy like Greg Williams. I think Greg has had a tremendous camp up to this point. Rasheem Dunn. And I want to see them continue as we start getting closer to the game time. But the thing I'm liking about this team is I got more balance now, with the forwards coming in. Toro, as I said, Isaiah. Then, of course, you got Marcellus, who's coming back. And of course, we can't forget about Josh. And how about Julian Champagne? I mean, he's one of the best freshmen, not only in the Big East, but in the country. So from that standpoint, now we have options now. I remember last year, guys were getting tired, real fatigued, especially as demanding as, how we play. And I look down the bench and I'm looking at guys, and there was no guys I could put in there that could elevate us and take us. I had to call times out. So I think this year here it'll be a little bit different. And of course, these guys got to get a little seasoning. But it's something I'm looking forward to, as a coach. You always look for challenges, and this will be the ultimate challenge because, as I said, we're jumping right in as we start up next week, and we had the crowd noise going, trying to. I don't know if we can replicate what the fans bring to the game, especially with the style of play. But we could have a little noise in there, and it's going to be different. But again, our guys will be on the floor and hopefully have a chance to play some basketball, and our fans can get a chance to see it.
So joining us all the way from Dijon, France, where he made his home for almost 20 years, St. John's class in 1983, Billy Goodwin. I think most known for off that 83 Big East Tournament title team, but also being on the cover of Sports Illustrated in that iconic picture that I know Mike Cragg has seen, Coach Anderson has seen, sitting on the rim at Madison Square Garden. No one else will ever do that again, because I'm sure that has been outlawed. So that is really kind of like the Billy Goodwin rule in some ways. So Billy, thank you for joining us. Billy, kind of transitioning from this current St. John's basketball team that's going to be the deepest in years. You have often said that the key to the success of 1983 and even those 3 years you spent, that you guys were really, really close off the court. I've read that quote from you a number of times. What do you think made that when you look back on it? Now as you're over 30 years past that. What do you think made that was so hard to replicate, and is very hard to replicate for teams?
Well, I was I think the beginning of it was Coach Conasecca. He like I was listening to Coach at practice. Practice was just so hard, but we all enjoyed it because it's like we worked so hard at practice, but it was so clean, and it was just like Coach. I remember a play. I made a great play, got the rebound, threw it up the court to David Russell. We dunked it. Conasecca said, hold it. What's going on here? I'm like, what did you guys do wrong? I'm like, what did we do wrong? I just made a great play defensively, threw a great pass to David, who made a great dunk. Conasecca said, there's people in the stands, they don't understand anything. Billy made the play. David, you just dunked it. That's what you did. Why didn't you just point at him? Why didn't you point at him and make sure that the people in the stands knew who made the play? And then it just caught on, and everybody played for everybody. It was like, we walked on the floor with just one thing in mind. It didn't matter if Chris hit his jump shot, if Bill blocked the shot. It was just like we all had one thing in one common goal, and it was just to get it done, to win. Coach, my father always used to tell me, "Yo, the world loves a winner." And Coach Konaseki, he told us the same thing. So we all just had this one thing where no matter what happened, I mean, if Chris wasn't hitting his shot, it wasn't a problem. If Dave
Billy, you still there? I think we lost Billy there for a second, so we'll try to get him back. Billy spent basically 14 years
I'm having a hard time
playing.
hearing you.
Oh, there you go. Billy, you still there? You continue your story.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
I'm having a hard time hearing you though.
Go ahead. We have you if you can hear me.
I can't hear you that well. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. If you're on your phone, if just raise the headset volume. We hear you fine.
Well, let me see. Hello? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay, I hear you better too. I put my headset on.
Okay. Yeah. So continue your story about how Coach Carnesecca made you guys close off the court.
He had this way of just, he would see problems coming and he would deal with them before. Like before Chris got there, everybody was saying like, I don't know how Billy and Chris are going to play together. They both the same size, and they both play the same position and so on and so forth. And coach would bring you in and be like, the press, they love to start shit. He's like, he said, you work hard at practice. The best guy plays, and that's that. You deal with your part. We'll deal with our part. And it was just like, we would just come to the gym, and we just realized, like, we weren't there we weren't there competing against each other. We were there. We were, and we weren't at the same time. We were there working hard. Like Ron Stewart pushed us. Ron Stewart used to push me and David. Kevin Williams would push Chris. But when it was all over and done with, we would all go out and have a pizza together, and we'd laugh. And then sometimes, we talked a lot of smack at practice, to each other. And it's just like it just grew. It was just something that was just it was meant to be. I mean, we had the personalities. You had Bill Winnington, who was a clown. He was a great guy. Jeff Allen, you had the two big guys, and they fit together. It was never one against the other. It was like one pushing the other. And then you had Bob Kelly and Trevor Jackson, and just a bunch of personalities that just mended. It was just something that it happens it happens sometimes, but we just had some great people, man. It was just fun to be around. They were fun on the court. They were fun off the court. We never really took things too seriously. Like if somebody fouled you at practice, because he's going hard, because Ron Stewart wanted to play a little more, or Bill Winnington wanted to play a little more. We used to take these as challenges, and we would get to practice and be like, hey, come on, bring it, because I'm gonna give it to you, And then when it was all over and done with, we'd be laughing and joking. Like he gave it to you today, and it just meshed. It just And then we had this little funny coach. I mean, when you playing for Lou, he was hilarious, man. I mean, he would take a funny situation, a hard foul, and turn it into a joke, and everybody's kind of like, we never really took things too seriously, other than our practice. Like, we had this real work ethic that was installed, and like, when you came to practice, you brought your hard hat, you brought your A game. And when it was over, it was over. And like in the locker room, somebody be joking about David dunked on him or he did this, but it stayed in really funny, just like brothers laughing and joking between each other. It was a great time. I'll never forget it.
Chris Mullen has often said that Billy was his favorite teammate. Now it was Chris, Billy Goodwin, David Russell, and Bill Wennington, I guess, living in the same suite. So you guys couldn't really carry that over if you had a tough practice because then you were living with each other. I don't know if athletes live as in tight quarters as they did back in the early '80s, as you guys did. How did that manifest itself, Billy? Where whatever it was, you had top players living in a congested quarters like that, where you had to find a way to maybe put things aside, or how did that maybe influence things differently or better on the floor?
Actually, it made us better because we never had arguments. I mean, this is Ripley's, believe it or not. The whole time we was together, it's like we never, ever. It's like living together was like the most fun part of the world. For us, it's like, hey, we back in there, we ordering pizzas. I'm walking into his apartment, he's walking into mine. No, it just blended. But the thing with me and Chris was, I was really good friends with Chris's brother, his older brother, Roddy. And I met Roddy in Harlem. He was the first white guy I seen come to Harlem to play, and Roddy brought his hard hat. And so me and Roddy got to be really good friends. So when Chris got to St. John's, he's like, "Hey, my brother said that you're gonna be the greatest in the world." And like it's like we was almost friends before we met. So and then we got on the floor, and we both kind of saw the game in the same way. And me and Chris on the floor, sometimes we could we could see something and wouldn't say a word. He saw what I saw, and we both saw the same thing, and we knew exactly what the next thing was to do. It was a weird thing because it just clicked like that from day one.
Billy, you went to France after saying you would only be there initially for 3 months, and then you fell in love with the country, spending basically a 14-year pro career. Venezuela twice, the Philippines. You were MVP of the French league initially. And then you've gone on to basically be working in basketball amidst all of that, being a counselor for troubled youth over in France, and living. I know you lived in Nice for a while too. You've credited Lou Carnesecca for building a man out of you. How did that still stay with you all these years into your professional career, and of course being a pro for basically 14 years after playing for Lou?
Well, first off, I had my father was like I had a great father and I had a great family support based there behind me, and so my father had already instilled a lot of things into me. And then when I got to St. John's, which I followed Lou as a kid, so I met Lou with these big eyes, because he was kind of like, I remember with the Nets, and I was like, hey, I went to his camp, but now I'm playing for him. And Lou would always teach us things about dealing with the press, dealing with people. You know, he'd be like, the first time I went to a press conference, I'm like, I want to go to a press, like the journalist asking for me, and coach was like, you're not ready. I'm like, why am I not ready? He's like, yeah, you can't just get in front of people and say anything. Because those journalists, he said, yeah, they'll take it and they'll do anything they want with if you don't, they'll take 3 words. And so I'm like, I'm not getting it. So eventually he would bring me into his office a lot and he would explain. And then the first time he took me to a press conference, he's sitting next to me and he's like holding on to my knee. So every time I say something, he's like squeezing it. And then after a while, I started understanding, like, you have you have to know who you're talking to. You have to know how you talk to people, because you can't just say anything, because somebody's going to interpret it the way they want to. And I just learned to deal with a lot of different things, a lot of adversity. Sometimes when people say things that I didn't enjoy or I didn't think was correct, I learned how to respond to it, or react to it, or not react to it, because now I was on the big stage, and he walked the walk with us every step of the way. He wouldn't allow us to make mistakes, and if we did make a mistake, he would bring us into the office and explain why it was a mistake, and what would have been a better way to handle it. So as which I'll give my father a lot of credit. My father was always there for me. My father tried to make sure I was ready to deal with the world. But after going, when you get into that big stage and you like in front of journalists and you're in front of a lot of people and people are just always looking for something, you know, that was a whole nother thing. And coach walked us through it. I mean, each and every one of us. I mean, you talk to Chris, you talk to Bill, you talk to anybody that played with us. There's always something in us every day that coach put installed in us. So he didn't just coach us. He took time with us. He explained. And so after that, you start traveling, go to whole other places in the world, and you're there, and he's like, those things, those experiences came back. And that's how I dealt with a lot of people. That's what, I got to France, I dealt with a lot of situations. I got here, I couldn't speak French at all. And had to learn how to deal with people. And because I already had all this experience from my days at St. John's, it went over smooth. It's like I got adopted by French people, you know. But like you said, in the beginning, I only had came for 3 months. I was in my mind, the objective was to come for 3 months. But France is a beautiful country with beautiful people, man. So eventually,
Yep, and you're in great food and wine country
you
as
know
well
about
now.
that, huh?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, Billy, backtracking, another person that seemed to have a critical impact and influence on you during your St. John's time was Ron Rutledge, who's been involved and around the program for a very long time. So you grew up kind of, you go to junior high 167, Gompers High School, Columbus High School, and you find yourself just not ready to go to college yet, a 4-year school. So you go to San Jacinto. And then you find yourself on your way back home. And I guess Ron Rutledge sort of became an initial, I would say, an initial mentor for you under Lou Carnesecca
Well,
to help you through that transition.
actually, sorry to cut you off, but actually, when I went to San Jacinto, and my plan was only to go for 1 year, and I was looking at Oklahoma was calling me, Texas A&M was calling me, Nevada, Las Vegas was calling me, and so my coach at San Jacinto, he calls Ron. He's like, "Hey, you better get over here." He's really looking at other schools. He's taking visits and this and that. So Ron Rutledge calls me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just visiting. I got 6 visits to take, and I could always stay another year." So Ron's like, "No, come on." He flies me into New York, and we go to Dante's, the old Dante's, me, him, and Coach, and we sitting there, and he's like, "Coach, you believe this?" He's like taking trips. He's going to visit other places. Coach is like, "What are you gonna do in Oklahoma?" he's like, "Hey, there's only one place for you. You got to come back to New York. You got to play in front of your family and friends. Hey, if you're gonna leave, come on right now." And it's like we ate. The end of the conversation was, "Hey, don't even think about it. You're coming back." We shook hands. I went back to Texas. I visited with my family. Went back to Texas, and I came to St. John's. And then when I got to St. John's, Ron was like a big brother to me. He was just everywhere. Like, when I would get to class, he's standing in front of my class. He's like, whenever he seemed like I might have been down, because in the beginning I had never played anywhere where I hadn't started. So when I got to St. John's my sophomore year, I'm coming off the bench and I was frustrated. And Ron would always be there like, "Don't worry, just keep working hard. It's gonna come. This is no longer high school. This is not junior college ball. You're playing at another level." And he always made sure that I felt okay, you know, and that I got the class for sure. Because I would be sitting in some of my classes and I would see him peeking through the door, like smiling like I'm there. Just so he definitely took on a big brother role to me when I got there, and still is today whenever we're together. I also had uh, we had a great coaching staff. We had Brian Mahoney, we had Al Lababo. My first year when I got there, we had Willis Reed as a coach. I mean, I met we had some great coaches, man. We had Red Sarachek, and I mean, it was just we had a great staff. That's the only thing I can tell you. I mean, oh man.
We're also joined on this Red White Club afternoon with basketball, St. John's basketball, Paul Pressey, special assistant to head coach Mike Anderson. We'll say hi to Coach Pressey in a moment because he and Billy Goodwin also crossed paths many, many moons ago too, that we'll get into. Billy, before you tasted that success and you reached the pinnacle of winning the Big East tournament in 1983, St. John's basketball, I think, had to learn from some heartbreak. 1981, you guys are facing freshman Patrick Ewing. It was a hype matchup with Georgetown. You guys were on the way up, and you're losing 41-8 at the half. That was one that you guys had to battle back from. And then a heartbreaking loss, 1982 NCAA Tournament against Alabama in your backyard at the Nassau Coliseum with a lot of St. John's fans. I read about being there, a great home court advantage. How did you guys kind of maybe treat those experiences before leading up into the tremendous expectations 1983 had?
Well, that was it's like, I guess, when you get tested, that's when you see really if you're friends, if it's for real or not. The Georgetown game, we playing the game in the Garden, and I'll never forget that one because I had my mother, my father, everybody behind the bench. Everybody had their parents behind the bench, and when we come out on the floor, I think we were ranked like number 16, and they were ranked like number 8 or something like that. And all our family and friends had these "We Are St. John's" posters. So we start the game. We go down 8-0, 12-0. Like coach calls the timeout at 14 or 16-0. So everybody's like, "We Are St. John's" with their posters. Then we go back on the floor. Patrick makes an outrageous block on Chris. And then he gets to the other end of the court, and Sleepy Floyd throws him alley-oop, and he dunks it backwards. Now we're down 20-0. So now we call another timeout, and now you see everybody putting their "We Are St. John's" posters under the bench, under their seats. So, we sitting there, and it's like it's just us. It's like there's nothing else you can do. That was a great team. That team was the team that lost to North Carolina in the finals. So when we get back in the locker room after we lost to them, I think 3 times that year by 30 or more or something like that. So we get back in the locker room, and coach is like, "Hey, don't put your head down. Whatever you do, don't put your head down." He's like, "Yeah, it's easy to be a big man when you have 20. Let's see what you guys got in you when you lose." So he always tested our character, and everything in all the hard times, he always tested our character. He was like, it's easy to be a big man when you're winning, but it's like when you're losing, that's when we see who you are. We'll see who comes to practice tomorrow and works as hard as they work when you win. So we stayed tested. I mean, so we knew we were good. We knew we could play, but Georgetown just had our number. And the thing for us, the test for us was to prove that we wouldn't put our head down, and that we're just going to come back and work and prove that we were that good. So we just took it as a test, and that was a proof of our friendship, because nobody pointed the finger, nobody said anything about it. We just came back to practice and continued to work, and we lost to them 3 times that year. And then the Alabama thing, the year before, my sophomore year, we were like 16-5, and then we lost like 6 of our last 7, and we played in the NIT, and we lost to Alabama in NIT in St. John's. Following year, we make it to the tournament. We having a great game. We start out, we beat, I don't remember who we beat in the first round. Then we get Alabama in Nassau Coliseum. Great game, back and forth. I get the last shot. I miss it. Kevin Williams get a rebound. He misses it. David Russell gets the rebound. He misses it. We lose by 1. And it's like like I said, we go back in the locker room, and Conasec is just like, "Hey, whatever you do, don't put your head down." He always said that. Whatever you do, he said, "You guys take a shower. If you got to take some time in the locker room, when you walk out this locker room, you walk out with your head up." And so for us, it just became who we were. It's like we won't put our head down, and we just go back and work harder.
And that all leads to the announcement that the 1983 Big East Tournament for the first time was going to be on center stage at Madison Square Garden. So that had to be a big deal, knowing that that was all of a sudden a potential goal, a carrot that Lou Carnesecca could put at the end of it. Hey, if we're playing well, we're going to be at the Garden for the Big East Tournament. But you guys end up facing Boston College, who you guys lost to twice in the regular season, and I guess those past lessons from '82 and '83 and '81 seem to carry some weight now for you guys, because you guys didn't necessarily let that bother you, and you guys defeat Boston College. You get on the cover of Sports Illustrated. How about the mindset going into that Big East tournament, and how special that was? And then basically how that day continues to be one that is unforgettable.
Well, that was a great moment, because all the way through, coach is like, it's not that important. It's not that important. Well, come on. We're going into the Garden. We was going in at, I think we were like number 8 in the nation or somewhere like that. We had lost. We had tied. I think we all tied for the Big East title, regular season title. Us, Boston College, and Villanova. Chris had missed the free throw in I don't know, like 7 games, and we down in the spectrum, and all Chris had to do was hit the free throw and hit the 1-and-1. We have 3. It wasn't a 3-point shot at the time. He missed it. They throw it down to Panone. Panone hits a shot, and that cost us the Big East. Well, it didn't really cost us the Big East title. We just, other things. But anyway, so we going in. We get Pittsburgh, take them out. Then we're down at halftime against Villanova at halftime. And me and Chris were just playing terribly. Me, Chris, and David was having a terrible first half. So we go in at halftime. We look at each other, and it's like, hey, it's now or never. We didn't work this hard to get here, to go out like that. So we come out in the second half. I think I scored 16 or 17 in the second half. Chris scored 19. David scored 16. We take Villanova. But now we got Boston College, who we had lost to twice in the regular season. But Boston College used to press us all the time. And in the beginning of the press, I would always be in the front and Chris be in the back. But their press was like, they had Michael Adams, who was really quick, and when Chris was dribbling and Bob was dribbling, they would come from behind. So we go into the game. I'm a senior. Dave's a senior. Chris was like the easiest underclassmen. Him and Bill and Ron Stewart, they were the easiest underclassmen to play with ever. So I'm like, Chris, you go up to the top of the press and let me get behind the press in the first half. So in the first half of that game, I scored 16 in the first half, because instead of us being deliberate and holding the ball, I just attacked it, and the best way to kill a press is to attack it. So we just changed it. Like Chris went to the beginning, he went to the first pass of the press, and I went behind the press. And so, I just, like, once I caught it behind the press, the first half, I just went right at him. And so I get 16 in the first half. We go up 10 at halftime. They come out of the press. So now we go back to our regular set, and then Chris, David Russell, Bill, we just playing our deliberate game. We went into our regular game and handled it. It's like we wanted to win it so bad for Coach. It was like, it wasn't even for us, It was like this gift we had to give to him, for everything he had did for us, for the role we had, the role we traveled together. It was like the culmination of our group. And it was me and David and Trevor and these guys our last year. So it was our last year together. So we wanted to go out with something. Actually, for me, we fell short, because my objective was the Final Four. But we had to give them that Big East tournament in the Garden. For me, it was like it was just nothing we could think about. There's no losing. We got to get this to Coach.
And speaking of a gift, I think it's one that continues to keep giving. So you land on the cover of Sports Illustrated in 1983 after that famed Big East tournament game, and the iconic shot that St. John's fans that weren't even born yet, I think, are still aware of you sitting on the rim. How did that cover picture and just that picture change your life? Because it certainly seems associated with you. Bill Wennington, I guess, pushing you up and saying, no, sit on the rim, which no one had ever done, no one that I've seen since. I'm sure it's illegal to do. And somehow you guys came up with the idea in the spur of the moment to do that. And that is going to be a part of your legacy and part of St. John's basketball history forever.
Hey, that's a great story. You know, we were sitting on the bench, so I'm sitting on the bench, and they just announced Chris as MVP of the tournament. At that time, they didn't announce the all tournament team. I just had a great tournament, and Connor Secker comes behind me. It's just that's what I told you. He knew everything, so he comes behind me and he's like, "Go get that net," you know. And so I'm like, "All right, you know, let me go get it." Normally, you cut a you snip and you pass, you know. But Bill Winnington comes. He was my roommate actually when we shared the apartment. So Bill Winnington comes behind me and he's holding me up and he's just pushing me up and he's so strong that after a while the rim is like waist level. And I'm like, whoa, if I fall down, if I fall backwards, it's going to be terrible. So I turn and I sit on the rim. And once I sit on the rim, it's like you see all these, you know, photographers and just rush on the court. And at half court, you got like almost every photographer that was in there at half court taking the pictures. And as they're taking the pictures, the student body, somebody comes and he gives me, we are St. John's. And it's just like everything just followed. It's like we're taking the pictures, and I'm cutting it down. But who's thinking? I wasn't thinking about Sports Illustrated at all. So, you know, after we got the net on and we taking all these pictures, it was on the cover of front page of the Post, the News, the Times, you know. So it's like, wow, that was beautiful. That came out well. And I walk into Connor Secker's office and he's looking at, I walk into the gym and they're like, Connor Secker wants to see you. So I'm like, what did I do now? You know, so I go into his office and he's like, hey, and he had the big one, the poster, he had the Sports Illustrated sent him a big poster with glass and everything. He's like, you're the first one. You're the first one that ever made the cover of Sports Illustrated from St. John. I'm like, what? Everybody in school that knew before I knew. You know, it was just one of those things. I guess it was meant to happen. But as you said, it's like it stayed with me all my life, even to today. You know, most people they remember it, and it's like people used to send me Sports Illustrated to sign. It was one of those things. I guess I was lucky that.
Mm-hmm. Let's unmute Special Assistant Coach Paul Pressey's mic now. So we move past 1983. Billy, you get selected by the Milwaukee Bucks in the third round of the 1983 draft. Coming off of the 1983 season was Paul Pressey, a rookie with Milwaukee. So at some point, I guess that fall of 1983, you're in training camp with Milwaukee. Paul Pressey is there after a solid rookie year, and I guess. Paul, I don't know if you thought this about Billy when you first walked into the gym, but maybe you said, "Oh, look at this guy, cover boy." Maybe that was his nickname. Maybe that was the way you motivated yourself to go after a guy that wanted your job. How about Paul? How about the first time you saw Billy Goodwin? I guess kind of a tough New Yorker that was coming into the gym.
I was excited for Billy because I knew he was a very good basketball player, and during that time. Ralph, it wouldn't. What's up, Billy?
Hey, man, good to see you, man. Glad we get to share St. John's together, man.
Hey, man, I'm kicking up some of your old dirt, man.
They told me you well adjusted here. They said everybody loves you already, man.
Good to see you, well, hey, you set the tone here, man, and just listening to your story and your history here, man, is just enlightening and. Man, what a time for you, because I'm feeling it already when I hear you talk about the university here, man, and we're just trying to catch up with the legacy that you left here. So, but thank you, man. But when Billy came in, I've already had history. I was a basketball guru, and watching each year when players came in, you had to pay attention because during that time, there was not a lot of long-term guarantee money. And so you had to pay attention and taking care of your job every year. And I'm saying Billy should make this team. But during that time, there was a numbers game. Guys were lined up, and we had a lot of small guys with Moncrief and Marcus Johnson, Junior Bridgman.
Yeah, that was the year they traded for Tiny and
exactly. Yep. So, you had a lot of guys there, and Billy had a good camp. At the end of the day, I was sharing this, Billy, with Coach Anderson. I said, when Don Nelson came over there to you, and he would do it with everybody. He would go over there and grab you over the shoulder and hug you and said, hey, I really appreciate you for working hard and giving everything you had. But you know, we're gonna have to let you go. But if anything we can do, let us know, and you know, we'd be more than happy to help you, you know, down the road. And so they released Billy, right? And I'm saying, wow. I said, man. So that happened to like 2 or 3 guys after that. And I had already had a year in. And so about a week later, Don Nelson called me over. He said, hey, Prince, get up here. So I'm going, okay. And so I was telling Coach Anderson, I said, he reached to grab me on my shoulder. I moved. I said, hold on, Coach, don't press hard on my shoulder. But, you know, that short time that me and Billy had there, I think you was there for what, a week and a half, 2 weeks, Billy?
Yeah.
And, you know, and when you really think about this during that time, going overseas to play was pretty big. I mean, there was a good opportunities to play and have a long career overseas. And I remember a lot of guys that didn't make it in the league went over there to make a career, including me and Coach Anderson's teammate from Tulsa. God bless him, rest in peace, Greg Stewart. And,
right.
and Greg, you know, remember Greg, right?
Yeah. Hey, you know, hey Paul, you don't realize I was so close to coming to West Texas to play with you in junior college.
Well, what happened?
You know, I had you know, we played against each other in junior college, man.
Yes,
you killed us.
I was telling Coach Johnson, I said we played against
you killed us, man. You were on the top of that press. I was after playing against y'all up there, you were on top of that press. We couldn't even get the ball over half court. But I met Coach Richardson. I had already told San Jacinto I was coming, and I met Coach Richardson just like, you know, through Greg, because I knew Greg since we was young, and he came down to see me in Arizona, and I was so he had me. I was like ready to go, but I had already told San Jacinto I was going to come, you know. And when we
it
played
proves
against
that you're still a man of your word.
Hey, when we played against your boy, did I regret it though? Because when we played you in that tournament, you remember we played y'all up in that tournament?
Yes, yeah, in Waco, wasn't it?
Yeah, Waco, and
yeah.
We was hammering everybody pretty easily. we got
yeah,
up
we
there.
Know we had our work cut out for us when we was going to play.
Put it on us. You and what was the Brown?
David Brown, Greg Stewart, Phil Spratt.
Yes, indeed. Y'all had that little like a Spanish looking kid playing on with
Joe Mendoza.
Right. Oh man, y'all pressed us to death, man.
Yeah,
that was ugly.
But it's good to hear. It's good to hear your voice, my friend.
But let me say something though, man. You being humble, man. You being very, very humble, man. You was a bad boy, Paul.
Well, you know, I was very fortunate, like you, really. I was very fortunate, like you. When I came into Milwaukee, there were a lot of I was the only rookie, and so their whole family atmosphere was already set. The GM there at the time was Wayne Emery. And Wayne Emery was a huge family guy. And so the things that he created, man, was amazing. And I didn't, you know, I thought the pro life was totally different. But if somebody had an anniversary, if somebody kid had a birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all those events, everybody went. All the players went, all their wives, the kids, everybody went. So they created
that helped the adjustment.
And it humbled me out from that point on as a professional athlete.
Hey man, but Paul, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I seen that was Milwaukee, I was like, "Ooh." The only thing that was going good for me on that moment was Charlie Chris went to Atlanta. The shooter, he what was his name? Brian.
Brian Winters.
He retired. And so you know you had Mike. Well, I can't remember. He's from Alabama that was coming. He was a shooter. Got drafted with me. But then in the middle of camp, they traded for Tiny and Kevin Greavy. And then you and Sydney, you can say what you want to, or you and Sydney, that was tough. That was a tough draw there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and we had that, you know, at your size, my size, Moncrief. We were all the same type size players. And you know, when you look at the numbers game, because that's basically what it got down to.
You know, it wasn't like,
take another young.
With you and Sydney already, we already in the same in the same skill set. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So
Yes.
and y'all was established. I mean, I watched you play. That was Milwaukee at that time was one of the best. I always tell people that was the best team that didn't win the title. You know?
Yeah, we had our shots. We just we had, but our problem was Boston, and then it became then it became Detroit, and then it became Chicago. Then we ran out of time.
The time will catch you though every time.
Well, look, it's good to hear from you, man.
You look good, man. I'm so happy you at St. John's, man.
Well, when you get back to the States, you make sure you come over here and visit us, man. It's good hearing your voice.
That's good. One of the things for sure, Paul. I was like, make sure you get Paul on so I can holler at him, man.
Guys, and we're just about out of time too. Coach Anderson, Coach Pressey, they got to practice to get ready for Billy Goodwin. You're also founder of Billy Goodwin Basketball Services, scouting, coaching young European professional players, 2-hour weekly all sports show in Dijon, France. I'm sure you're enjoying all the wine and the peace and comfort out there. And thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing perhaps some of your recommendations. You know, French basketball is apparently coming up on the golden generation. They're going to have another 5 NBA players drafted in the next 3 drafts, it's projected. So we look forward to your recommendations, I think, down the road too, huh?
Yeah. Hey, before I get off, I got to say hello to my mother because she's listening, and she said to make sure I say hello to her. So, hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Wow.
Billy Goodwin, thank you so much. We hope that you're safe as well.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yep, and we're certainly our pleasure. Coach Pressey, Coach Anderson, thank you. We know you have to run. Mr. Craig, thank you so much. For anybody that wants to support the St. John's Red White Club, as always, thank you so much for sponsoring it. Just log on to redstormsports.com, click on Giving to join the Red White Club to support St. John's Athletics. And we hope to see you all very, very soon at Carnesecca or the Garden. Thank you so much, all. Good afternoon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Good night.